You may be seated. Hope everybody had a good lunch, and we'll continue where we left off. Ms. Kruger, you're recognized to call your next witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the staff calls Mr. John Mayu to the stand. Will you please state your name for the record?
John Mayu,
By whom are you employed and what is your position?
United Professional Companies and its affiliated entities, and I'm Senior Vice President.
Mr. Mayu, would you please provide your educational and professional background?
Sure, I have a undergraduate degree from the engineering school at Tulane in computer science, and I then went on to get an MBA with a concentration in finance also from Tulane.
Are you the same John Mayu who submitted pre-filed direct testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I am.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or other revisions to that testimony that you need to make?
There was an errata that was filed, but with the errata, it is complete.
If I were to ask you the same questions that were included in your pre-filed direct testimony today under oath, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Mayu, would you briefly provide your summary for the commission?
Yes, I will. My testimony addresses Atmos's capital structure and ROE. Now, capital structure and ROE are inherently linked, and the commission should consider them in tandem rather than independently. On capital structure, earlier you heard Mr. Christian try and dance all around the issue, but the simple fact is that Atmos has the highest equity ratio of any natural gas company in its peer proxy group, period, full stop. Atmos has an equity ratio of 60%, the peer group average is only 43%. Atmos also had the highest equity ratio approved for any natural gas company in the past 3 years. Now, what's worse, commissioners, is that Atmos claims that you don't even have a right to question its high equity ratio. Apparently, they just want you to trust them and rubber stamp whatever they say, whether it's reasonable or not. Bottom line on capital structure is that Atmos is out of line, they have too much equity, and because equity is so much more expensive than debt, Mississippi ratepayers are paying more than they should be. My recommendation is a 50% equity ratio, which is much more in line with industry norms. Moving to return on equity. Fact, Atmos is requesting a 10.41% ROE. That's greater than the average ROE approved nationwide in every single year for the past 20 years. It's also about 0.75% more than the average ROE approved in 2025 year to date. Bottom line, I recommend an ROE of 9.4% in conjunction with the 50% equity. This is much more closely in line with what other natural gas companies are seeing. Now, all that said, commissioners, don't take my word for it. Look at what your fellow commissioners in Kentucky have said. The Kentucky PSC found that, quote, equity ratios above 55% were unusual, and that, quote, Atmos failed to establish that its proposed equity ratio is reasonable. They also said that Atmos's ROE was, quote, blatantly excessive and thus unreasonable. Just over a month ago, Kentucky authorized a 53.5% equity ratio and a 9.75% ROE, which are far less than what they requested in Kentucky and far less than what they're requesting here in Mississippi. Access to capital. Commissioners, Atmos wants you to believe that if you don't approve their proposal, then somehow they're not going to be able to access the capital markets. Now, to me, that argument is kind of like the boogeyman that we heard about as kids. He's not real, so you're never actually going to see him. He's just used to keep you in fear. There is simply no reason whatsoever to believe that Atmos would not be able to access the capital it needs if it had an equity ratio, ROE, and credit ratings similar to the average of its other peer utilities. In summary, the facts are clear and conclusive. Atmos's request is unreasonable, unjust, and quite simply detached from reality. The commission should authorize a 50% equity ratio and a 9.4% ROE. That's fair, reasonable, and it can be done while preserving access to capital. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the staff tenders Mr. John Mayu for cross-examination.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger.
We have no questions for this witness.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. Appreciate it. You're dismissed.
Thank you.
Ms. Kruger, you're recognized to call your next witness.
Mr. Chairman, the staff calls Dr. J. Thomas McGuckin to the stand. Will you please state your name for the record?
James Thomas McGuckin.
By whom are you employed and what is your position?
My position is I'm engaged by UPC as a staff consultant.
Dr. McGuckin, please provide your educational and professional background.
Yes. I have a PhD in economics from the University of Wisconsin, and for 30 years I taught economics and regulatory procedures at New Mexico State University. And since I retired from the university, for the last 10 years, I have been engaged with UPC as a consultant for both the Louisiana Public Service Commission and the Mississippi Commission.
Are you the same Dr. McGuckin who submitted pre-filed direct testimony in this proceeding?
Yes, I am.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or other revisions to that testimony that you need to make?
No.
If I were to ask you the same questions that were included in your pre-filed direct testimony today under oath, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Dr. McGuckin, would you briefly provide your summary for the commission?
Yes. I reviewed Atmos's operation and maintenance expenses for the test year in this rate case. What I found is the O&M expenses are significantly higher in the test year that determine the rates in the rate case than they have been previously. They're about $7.5 million higher than the average. They were 49, now they're 57, and that's a 14% increase. And I investigated the reasons why they were higher, and there were 4 major factors in that. One, Dr. Matthews rebutted my testimony by saying that I excluded an O&M adjustment for labor. He claimed it was a known and measurable adjustment going forward on the labor, and that was an increase in the cost over the test year. My response to that is, first, okay, K&M starts with a historical test year and only adjusts for actual, specific, objectively verifiable changes. It's a very limited and very precise adjustment. Principle behind this is the adjustment must be certain and quantifiable and not hypothetical and not subject to management discretion. It's something that's almost set in stone. The previous SRAs, now I want to clarify here, the rate case and SRAs get confused a lot of times, but the SRA is their annual filing for a rate adjustment each year. The rate case is sort of a separate animal. And the previous SRA still use the same methodology or similar methodology. Previous SRAs do not contain known and measurable adjustments for the labor increase. There is no precedence for this labor adjustment established in the previous SRA filings. What was that? Oh, nothing. Okay. In the rate case revenues requirements model, Atmos lumped both the 2024 and 2025 labor increase into a single percentage factor. That is 6.13%. In other words, they took and added their labor costs from the test year and multiplied times 6.13%. This level of adjustment was not known and measurable at the time of the filing. In keeping with our methodology, that is UPC, for the rate case, I did not use a forward test year and did not retain the labor adjustment in our estimate of revenue requirements. If in the interim, between the filing, which was in early June, and the rate implementation from this rate case in November, labor increases are actualized. In other words, these increases actually did occur, UPC would be open to a compliance filing that incorporates this labor adjustment. As far as O&M disallowances, indirect, I noted that test year 24 O&M is $7.5 million average and higher. And in previous SRAs, staff has reviewed the O&M expenses. They do a very diligent job and they go line by line and has disallowed approximately $2 million each year of these O&M expenses. Mr. Matthews notes that the disallowances follow an informal interactive exchange between staff and Atmos. That is true. Because the rate case does not allow for this interaction, the formal deal, I applied a much more conservative approach to the disallowances of those O&M expenses. I came up with a number of $1.1 million in O&M disallowances, whereas I said before, staff has averaged about $2 million or $900,000 more, and that's been a continuous year-end adjustment. Mr. Matthews argues that my results are not reproducible. I strongly disagree. I use database management functions available in Excel to determine the total disallowances by categories that are listed in my direct. These results are absolutely reproducible using Excel data functions. Finally, I argue that staff's continuous review of O&M expenses in the SRA or similar filings is absolutely necessary as a check on utilities to verify their costs are necessary and prudently incurred. Finally, there's two more items, I'm sorry. Jackson expenses associated with the incident in early January are included in the O&M expenses, about $2.7 million. At this time, I cannot determine if the $2.7 million of expenses associated with the Jackson incident are prudently incurred. There is an NTSB investigation of the incident, and if the investigation determines that the Jackson explosion in 2024 was a result of operator error, the commission and staff may wish may then determine that these costs should not be allowed and recovered by the ratepayer. Mr. Matthews argues these costs should be recovered because similar expenses might occur in the future. And it is, and I'll quote, "It is not reasonable to conclude that these expenses are non-reoccurring." I'll let that go. Including these costs or rates on this premise is very speculative. In other words, he's saying that these are going to maybe recur in the future. I think that's speculative. In the interim, Jackson still remains a unique event that should not be recovered in rates going forward. There's a basic principle used in rate cases, and SRA would recover such extraordinary costs, but this is not an SRA filing. If Atmos disagrees and says we really need recovery of those expenses, they were truly legitimate expenses, they can come to you, the commission, and to consider recovering an exceptional recovery mechanism such as a rider. My last point I want to make is about variable costs. Their legal expenses have been up and down considerably. And what I did was I averaged the last 5 years and said, this is what we should put in rates going forward. And then that is more representative instead of the high and low fluctuations. Mr. Matthews argues that the legal expenses he agrees that they can be quite variable, but then he suggests that the annual SRA would recover each year's cost. He is correct, but this is not an SRA filing, it's a rate case. That is my testimony.
Mr. Chairman, the staff tenders Dr. Tom McGuckin for cross-examination.
Atmos Energy has no questions for this witness.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCulkin.
Thank you.
You're excused. Okay. Ms. Kruger, you're recognized to call your next witness.
Mr. Chairman, the staff calls Mr. Dustin Madsen to the stand.
Has it, I think you mentioned one hadn't been sworn in yet. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Could, just one point point of order. Can we try and keep the remaining summaries closer to the 3 minutes?
Would you please
Yeah.
state your name for the record?
Dustin Madsen.
By whom are you employed and what is your position?
I am the president of Emeridia Consulting Corporation.
Mr. Madsen, will you please provide your educational and professional background?
I'm a
Excuse me, if you'll, from our clock, Ms. Bat, most parties have went over a little
Okay.
bit, so we are giving some leeway to
thank
both
you.
parties. Thank you. You may continue.
Thank you. I am a Canadian and U.S. CPA. I'm also a certified depreciation professional and a certified rate of return analyst.
Are you the same Dustin Madsen who submitted pre-filed direct testimony in this proceeding?
I am.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or other revisions to that testimony that you need to make?
I do not.
If I were to ask you the same questions that were included in your pre-filed direct testimony today under oath, would your answers be the same?
Yes, they would.
Mr. Madsen, would you briefly provide your summary for the commission?
Yes. Good afternoon, commissioners. My testimony in this case addresses how Atmos's costs are allocated amongst its various customer classes. Atmos is proposing an allocation of costs that implies residential customers are materially undercontributing to the cost of Atmos by $50.6 million. This means that residential customers are being subsidized by other customers by this same amount. While Atmos is not proposing a true-up in this case, over time, for rates to reflect cost to serve, this difference would need to be resolved. And the only practical way to do that, if the company's evidence is accepted, is to raise rates for residential customers by a further $50.6 million over time. First off, even if Atmos's cost allocation were accepted as correct by this commission, I do not support passing on these further costs to residential customers either currently or in the future. Affordability is a pressing concern for Mississippi customers. Secondly, the company's cost allocation methodology incorrectly assumes that the majority of the costs for its gas distribution mains should be paid for by residential customers. Gas mains are constructed to support an overall level of demand on the system and are not intended or designed to serve specific customers, as Atmos suggests. The analysis prepared by Atmos in this regard respectfully relies on arbitrary assumptions around the implied usage of these gas mains and the implied benefits to individual customers from those gas mains. My testimony corrects the classification of these costs across the customer classes to reflect a 100% demand-based classification, which is aligned with the guidance of NARUC. The result of this single change is material. Based on my analysis, residential customers are no longer under-contributing to the costs by $50.6 million. Instead, the difference is only $1.4 million, and in the context of the work I do, I consider that pretty much bang on. The contributions to costs by all other customer classes also better reflect the cost to serve those customers. This is not just a feel-good result, as the company suggests, it is the correct result. Larger customers with larger demands, under my approach, pay for the cost of the system that they cause. As a simple example, if 100 residential customers drive 1,000 units of demand and one industrial customer drives 2,000 units of demand, then under my analysis, these demand-driven costs, i.e. the size of the pipe to serve these customers and their demand, are paid for by the customer driving the size of the pipe constructed by Atmos, not the number of customers connecting to the pipe. Lastly, based on my revised cost allocation, which reduces the fixed and unavoidable costs assigned to residential customers and others, I recommend that the company's customer charges be lower than proposed by the company. These adjustments begin to narrow the differences between other investor-owned gas utilities in Mississippi, which I understand to have significantly lower customer charges in this state. I also recommend the Commission direct further study every 2 years going forward and the company's cost of service to ensure differences of this magnitude are reconciled much quicker in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madsen. Mr. Chairman, the staff tenders Mr. Dustin Madsen for cross-examination.
Atmos Energy has no questions for this witness.
Okay, Mr. Metzen, thank you. You may
Thank you.
step down. Ms. Kruger, you're recognized to call your next witness.
Mr. Chairman, the staff calls Mr. David Garrett to the stand. He does need to be sworn in.
Madam Clerk, will you swear the witness in? You may proceed.
Will you please state your name for the record?
My name is David Garrett.
By whom are you employed and what is your position?
I'm the managing member of Resolve Utility Consulting. Excuse me.
Mr. Garrett, will you please provide your educational and professional background?
Yes, I have a finance degree, a law degree, and an MBA from the University of Oklahoma. After graduating law school, I worked in private legal practice for a few years before joining the staff at the Oklahoma Corporation Commission, where I worked in utility rate proceedings, primarily on the issues of depreciation and cost of capital. I formed Resolve Utility Consulting after leaving the commission and have represented a variety of clients in more than 150 cases around the country, again, primarily on the issues of depreciation and rate of return.
Are you the same David Garrett who submitted pre-filed direct testimony in this proceeding?
Yes.
Do you have any additions, deletions, or other revisions to that testimony that you need to make?
No.
If I were to ask you the same questions that were included in your pre-filed direct testimony today under oath, would your answers be the same?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett, would you briefly provide your summary for the commission?
Yes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My testimony in this case addressed the depreciation rates proposed by Atmos, which were presented in the company's depreciation study sponsored by Dane Watson. In this case, the company is proposing a substantial increase in its annual depreciation accrual of $14 million, which represents a 22% increase from the current annual accrual. My analysis of the depreciation study indicates several adjustments should be made to the company's proposed depreciation rates. Adopting staff's proposed depreciation rates would result in a reduction of $12.9 million to the company's proposed depreciation accrual. However, this also represents an increase from the company's current proposed depreciation accrual. In other words, even if my proposed depreciation rates were adopted, it would still result in an increase in depreciation expense for the company in this case. The significant depreciation issue in this case, which is the method used to calculate depreciation rates. Mr. Watson presented depreciation rates calculated under the equal life group method as opposed to the average life group method, or ALG method. The ELG method, equal life group, is effectively a form of accelerated depreciation and is not used by the vast majority of regulatory jurisdictions based on my experience. Even the company implicitly acknowledged the harmful effects of the ELG method. As stated by Mr. Watson in his testimony, the company, out of concern for its customers, asked Mr. Watson to also present a set of depreciation rates calculated under the majority view ALG method. Not only does the ALG method promote fairer and more reasonable rates, but even the company, out of concern for customers, has presented depreciation rates under this majority view ALG method. Likewise, the depreciation rates I propose in this case are also calculated using the ALG method, and that is the method the Commission should adopt. Turning to the issue of service life, I proposed longer service life estimates for 4 of the company's accounts in this case, as represented by the Iowa curve selected for each account. My proposed service lives are based primarily on technical and statistical analyses of the company's historical retirement data. For each of these accounts at issue, the Iowa curve I propose results in a better fit to the observed retirement patterns as displayed in the original survivor curves for each of these accounts. Regarding net salvage, Atmos is proposing significant increase in negative net salvage rates for several accounts. This has an increasing effect on depreciation rates and expense. I recommend the Commission adopt a policy that takes a more gradual approach regarding net salvage rate increases in order to mitigate the harmful financial impacts to customers. Specifically, I recommend the company's proposed increases to net salvage be limited to 25% of the proposed increase in the interest of gradualism. This concludes my summary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Mr. Chairman, the staff tenders David Garrett for cross-examination.
Atmos Energy has no questions.
Mr. Garrett, thank you. You may step down.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kruger, and thank you to all the witnesses that have testified before the commission for this hearing. At this time, I'd like to move on to closing statements. Oh, you had
Just one thing, Mr. Chairman, for the record, the staff rests its case.
okay.
And could the staff also request a 45-minute recess prior to closing statements?
Atmos, y'all want 45 minutes?
I mean, we're ready to go, but, I mean, I'm not gonna stand in the way.
25, maybe?
How about 10 minutes?
Okay. We'll have 10-minute recess. Thanks.
Thank you.
We good? We on? Great, thank y'all. We'll pick up where we left off. Ms. Kruger? Y'all, okay, awesome, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kruger, and thank you for all the witnesses who have testified before this commission for this hearing. At this time, we'll move on to the closing statements. Please keep in mind the aforementioned 20-minute time limit. We'll begin with Atmos. Council, you're recognized.
Okay, is the microphone placed okay? Okay,
There's a handheld down there if you want it to, either way.
yeah, I'm nervous about that, I don't know. So, I'm gonna try to do this quickly, and if I do have minutes left over, I would like to reserve those minutes in case there's any need for clarification on the, after the staff's closing. But I'm gonna start, before I put my lawyer hat on, I'm gonna start by speaking to you from the perspective of the Mississippi Division of Atmos Energy. And what the division wants to say to you is, commissioners, thank you for your time and attention that you have dedicated to this case, as well as the focus you've given Atmos Energy since taking office at the beginning of last year. The past 2 years have presented considerable challenges, yet you've been there alongside us in meeting with our teams in the field to see the work we're doing. Our employees really appreciate that, and they're proud to show you the work that we do every day. You've also been at the town hall meetings, and you've heard directly from our customers about the work that they want to see us do. You've observed us surveying our system, repairing leaks, replacing pipe, seeing everything required to provide our customers and communities with the safe and reliable service they expect and deserve from us. You saw firsthand what is needed on our system, and you didn't have to sit in this room for 3 days to know that we have significant investment needs and that the pace needed has only increased. This week, you got an even better view of the material that needs to be replaced when Mr. Kime showed you samples of the pipe that's been removed. You heard from our experienced engineers about our distribution integrity management program and the risk factors that that program is addressing on the Mississippi system. You heard from the work that they do, these engineers, is complex. They are subject matter experts, and they are the best equipped to make the recommendations to us about what needs to be done on the system. We listened to our engineers' recommendation on pipe replacement, and I would advise this commission and staff to do the same. We hope it's clear at this point that safety is the foundation of every decision we make. A core principle of our safety culture is to inspire trust with our employees, our communities, and our regulators. We hope that this case provides a path to build on the years of collaborative work we've had with this commission to further enhance that trust. If you would like more insight into our decision-making process, we're here to do that for you. If you need more information, we're here to do that for you. We strive to be the most transparent utility that you regulate. At the end of the day, we're going to give the commission and the staff anything you need to show you that we mean what we say. We are here to do what is right for our customers and keep our system safe and reliable and take into account affordability. So, over the past year, we've talked with you about Atmos Energy's various efforts to resolve this case before it was filed to further address affordability concerns. And I don't need to recount those here. We've shown you the presentations. We've shown you that we were committed to addressing rate impact without compromising the safety of the system, and that commitment remains. Atmos Energy has proudly served the customers in Mississippi for 24 years, and we've collaborated with the commission and staff to fulfill your policy goals. We are steadfast in that commitment. So, putting my lawyer hat back on, I just want to tell you that, commissioners, there's one thing that the three entities involved in this case have in common: the commission, the staff, and Atmos Energy all exist to serve the public interest. It is our job to work together to make sure that everything we do is consistent with the public interest. That means all of the stakeholders impacted by the action of all three of us, the customers and communities of Mississippi being the first and foremost. I think we all agree that safety and reliability coupled with affordability are fundamental to the public interest. There's a reason that there hasn't been a hearing like this one we just completed in about 40 years. That reason is that the three of us have been able to successfully collaborate to find ways to accomplish the public interest upon which all three of us can agree. We couldn't have done that if we had to relitigate every single rate-making issue every single time rates are changed. We have stood on the shoulders of the legislatures, commissions, and utilities that came before us to establish the formula rate plan structures that are now in place. The utilities have worked with the staff and commission in recent years to make those formula rate plans as consistent as possible across utilities, building on the lessons learned over the past 3 decades. The system is not broken. In fact, it serves the public interest even better than it did at its inception because it has been adapting to changing circumstances and to incorporate generally accepted rate-making principles. Here's what that framework gets us. You saw the joint position statement that lists 26 contested issues in this case, right? That's the whole alphabet of issues. You heard testimony over the past 3 days about things like lead lag studies and net operating loss carry forwards and accumulated deferred income taxes. And you've been through nearly 2 rounds of formula rate plan annual filings from all the investor-owned utilities. And I would bet you $1 that you have never had to hear discussions of those technical issues yet in your tenure here. And that's because the commission and the staff and the utilities have established a fairly uniform agreement on how to handle those issues that have been producing the just and reasonable rates under the annual filings you've been approving. We're listening to this commission's direction through your open meetings and your communications. We heard your concerns with the safety and reliability of the City of Holly Springs electric system and the penalties imposed to make sure that that utility undertakes the type of investments that Atmos Energy is undertaking for their system. We saw the press release indicating that commissioners have partnered with Entergy Mississippi to increase reliability spending by 50%, or $300 million over the next 5 years. We know that spending would not be possible for Entergy Mississippi without the 3 main elements of rate making I'm about to reiterate to you. We know that the main reason it's important to you to expand natural gas service, which you've stated as a goal, and to grow the customer base is that natural gas costs customers less than half of getting that same energy from electricity to heat their homes and water. So rather than dismantling a rate-making calculation that's proven to work for all Mississippi utilities, this proceeding has made it clear that the solution to support the public interest here is to improve how the company presents and how the staff reviews and investigates the information we provide to prove the prudence of our investment. It's also clear that this process could be improved by the staff having access to an engineer that has experience working on distribution systems, as well as the expertise of the Commission's Pipeline Safety Division. You heard a lot of discussion this week about rate making in some of the other 7 states in which Atmos Energy operates. I hope you were able to see from that Mississippi's formula rate plans are among the most time-tested annual rate making in the country. Sure, there are other states that have slightly different frameworks to accomplish the same results with historical test years and deferral accounting for capital investment like Tennessee and Texas and Louisiana. And we could do that in Mississippi, but the rate outcomes would be virtually identical and it would diminish the commission's ability to review costs before they are incurred, which doesn't happen in those states. The states referenced by staff, namely Kentucky, Kansas, and Colorado, have regulatory frameworks that require multiple annual filings combined with a general rate case every 2 to 3 years. For example, neither Kansas customers nor the Kansas Commission get to see the company's entire capital budget presented as a whole and the support for that budget, much less the full rate impact of the company's investments. Rather, they experience it piecemeal through multiple annual filings and general rate cases that complicate the customer's ability to understand how our investments are impacting safety, reliability, and customer rates. Mississippi's process, by contrast, allows us to pre-decide how most of the 26 issues presented in this case will be handled and not have to litigate those issues every time rates are changed. In fact, had the annual filing process been used this year in lieu of this rate case, customers could have avoided $500,000 in costs that we've already incurred to litigate this case, plus the other $500,000 or more we will incur, and enjoyed the result that would have produced rates that are nearly 40% less than the rates produced under this more traditional cost of service case. In fact, that's about $4.77 less, I believe, would be the rate impact of the stable rate had we filed that in July. It's worth noting that the company remains open to using the formula rate option this year to adjust rates, and with the Commission's permission, is willing to amend its request in this case to the revenue requirement produced through the current terms of its annual mechanisms so that customers receive the benefit of that result. Commissioners, if you're serious about safety, reliability, economic development, affordability, and natural gas expansion in this state, then a continued supportive regulatory environment is essential to that goal. The $1 billion of investment Atmos Energy has made in Mississippi since 2015 has and will continue to be driven by 3 well-established pillars of this Commission's regulatory framework. The first one is the use of an annual rate mechanism that layers forward-looking known and measurable adjustments into a historical test year to establish rates. The second one, the use of a cost of equity formula and the accompanying performance adjustments that has been established for the utilities, all investor-owned utilities in the state. And the third one is the use of actual capital structure to set rates. These policies are what Atmos Energy relies on to access the marketplace and raise the capital it needs to address system safety risks and meet the state's economic development needs. Without these 3 critical elements, the company's ability to secure capital and invest in its systems will be diminished. A shift to setting rates on a historical test year would mean that there are expenses associated with capital that Atmos Energy will never recover. Not that it will recover it at a later time, but it will never recover those. A change to the ROE formula would negate years of work that the staff and commission have undertaken to make those formulas consistent across the Mississippi utilities. And as staff admits, a move away from the use of the company's actual capital structure to establish rates will in and of itself diminish the company's credit quality. This in turn means that it will be harder to raise required levels of capital for investment and that the capital that can be raised will be more expensive for our customers. We have seen that happen. The staff has referred to the Kentucky jurisdiction multiple times. The rate case that we just concluded in Kentucky, our cost of debt was more than 70 basis points lower than the Columbia Gas's cost of debt in its rate case in the same year, and because our balance sheet is stronger and our credit rating is stronger. That's real dollars. The actual rate of return calculated with our higher equity ratio is lower than the rate of return for Columbia because of the difference in those debt costs. We have better credit, we get a lower interest rate. Ultimately, Atmos Energy is asking the Commission to do 3 things in this case. The first is set rates beginning November 1st, 2025, that reflect the company's actual cost of service during the time period that those rates will be in effect, not based on last year's costs or an average of a bunch of years' costs, but on the cost that we will be incurring during that 12-month period. The second is to approve the stable rate adjustment rider as filed by Atmos Energy in this case. The continuation of those three well-established pillars that I described above is inherent in each of these asks. But the third ask, we have to ask the Commission to direct staff and the company to develop an information sharing process that will confirm for all three of us that the proposed investment that we have in our filings is in the public interest. Everyone here showed a willingness to do that. You heard Mr. Sissing say that he would love to sit down with the company. You heard Mr. Berg say that he has never, though he is interested, he has never sat down and seen our distribution integrity management model, seen how we prioritize addressing risks on the system and how that translates. And forget how that's never happened before. Let's put all that behind. Now is the time. We've exposed all of these issues. We've exposed the confusion. Now is the time to set that up so that we can show to you without a shadow of a doubt that what we're proposing is needed for our customers. So, and there's also been talk about, well, you could present that in a separate filing, or you could file a general rate case. But we don't have to do that. That would be doing a disservice for our customers in Mississippi. The existing formula rate plan offers the opportunity to implement that information sharing process. Under the formula rate process, we provide the Commission with a 5-year look ahead of our estimated capital plan. We provide detailed information regarding the projects to be undertaken in the upcoming fiscal year, and we're happy to provide additional information that's requested to explain the need for those projects. After the year is over, we file a variance report that explains any deviations from the plan presented, and we true up the next year's filing so that customers pay only for the actual dollars spent in a given year. That formula rate process provides the company with the flexibility needed to appropriately determine and direct capital dollars to where they're needed most for both planned and unanticipated events. It also allows the company to closely monitor the company's activities and avoids the need for costly and resource-intensive general rate cases like this one. We don't want to end up with piecemeal rate making here. We want you to see our whole plan. We want customers to have transparency about what the full rate impact is going to be of what we are doing to serve them safely and reliably. And we work in a lot of other states. We've seen a lot of other systems, and we make it work. But we don't want to dismantle a system that works better than any other state in which we operate. In closing, I'd just like to reiterate our appreciation for the Commission's time and consideration of these important issues, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Bass. Commissioners, any questions? Thank you, Ms. Bass. Mr. Jones, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. In response, which is the staff's right to close this thing, and listen to Ms. Bass, that tenor of cooperation that I hear Ms. Bass talk about in her speech there, I didn't see it evidenced in the pre-consultation meetings. That's the reason why we're here. The idea that Atmos has done everything they need to do and given all the requests to the staff that the staff has requested, apparently that failed because we're here. The Commission ordered a rate case in 2023, and this is it. So the kumbaya cooperation between the staff and Atmos and all we need was just a lack of communication. That's patently false. there's a dramatic impasse in this case. And that dramatic impasse is the increasing pace of the capital spending of Atmos, and whether or not that the pace is going to continue, if your customer, Mr. and Mrs. Smith out there, your residential customer, if you'll be able to pay their bill. Are they going to be able to afford? Are they going to have to leave in medicine? No, I'm not going to get that filled, because $10 here, $12 there, and it rises up. Y'all heard the testimony of the experts in here, and I'm not going to go over each and every bit of it, because y'all have heard it. You got it before you, and you'll have the post-trial briefs. But, so that's false too. But what I did hear in this, more so than anything, is Atmos scare tactics. I remember in this case going through, well, you know, you're going to violate Pittman if you don't approve our actual cap structure. Well, that's not what Pittman says at all. And Pittman is a Mississippi Supreme Court case. The commission, so long as the Public Service Commission examines and considers evidence and testimony of each expert witness at a rate increase hearing, the commission is within its statutory authority in accepting, rejecting all or any portion of the expert's opinion. Commission must not ignore salient and substantial factors offered in the evidence, but is a trier of fact and is free to adopt, accept, or reject recommendations of any witnesses. And the last thing I want to tell you that in that case, there was issue of hypothetical capital structure, which we recommend, a hypothetical equity structure of 50% as opposed to their actual 60%. This opinion says nothing in this opinion should be construed to prohibit absolutely the imposition of hypothetical capital structures by the PSC. Instead, the foregoing discussion makes clear that the expert opinions, they went on, you need substantial evidence, which we provided. So you're not, Atmos would make you believe you're handcuffed by a Mississippi Supreme Court case. And if you don't do this, number one, Mr. and Mrs. Moody from the Moody's rating service and the Standard & Poor's rating services are going to downgrade the regulatory environment in the state of Mississippi, downgrade you in the atmosphere if you don't do what they say. That's what was said. It's what they said. I didn't say it, they said it. And that creates a problem. It's almost, they're asking you, paying lip service, commissioners, we appreciate all that you've done, but you really don't have any authority over us. Set our rates, moderate our spending, have alternative approaches to this thing to get these costs under control. They're asking you to abdicate your seats and put Standard and Poor's up there in Moody's. That's what I heard. As a matter of fact, Mr. DeCendis, or DeCendis, one of their top experts here on ROE, I think that's what he testified about, he came up there and said, yeah, Moody's is going to downgrade Kentucky for that commission up there meddling. Remember, go back and look at the testimony, meddling. So I guess y'all would be meddling if you change or do anything that they don't want you to do. That's what I'm hearing. It means it's a scare tactic is what it is. The law supports y'all looking at the evidence in the case, and if you find it's reasonable and prudent, substantial evidence to change your approach on rate making, in this case, it is within your power and authority and duty on behalf of the state of Mississippi, the gas utility, the public, all of us to do so. You are in control. You have the discretion based on your findings in this case. Don't let them try to convince you otherwise with that. And that's what I heard in this entire thing. Now, again, the staff has made several proposals. This case stems from years of staff's efforts to rein in Atmos's capital spending pace while maintaining safety and holding it accountable to customers. The staff and the commission, look, we want safety. Safety is great. We're not saying let's not have a safe system. We're saying there has to be, we all live within a budget. We all live within a budget. There's not an unlimited supply coming into anybody's household that I know of that allows us, hey, I know I budgeted $10,000 to spend this month, but hey, I got unlimited supply I'm going to spend what I want. That's not the real world for whatever reason. You have to live within a budget. Part of the commission's duty, as y'all well know, and you have in every other case before you, determine rates within a budget to control runaway spending. As a matter of fact, if you remember when we went through these cases of these different jurisdictions, and I think it was DeSantis or one of the guys up there, maybe Mr. Christian, and I handed him a case and asked him to read it. And each commission, what did they read? This commission has concerns over Atmos's capital spending. All in their footprint, each commission in other states sitting right where y'all are today in rate case. Look, we got a problem here. There's concerns, we've had them for years, that they're putting ahead profits above customers' rates. Read those cases. We've got them in there. Just look at them. Refresh your memory. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So the concerns aren't just staff. This is not something that that the public utility staff and UPC has cooked up. This is something that's going on in other jurisdictions. Just happened in Kentucky, and the Kentucky PSC said, "Oh, we're gonna slow down, Atmos. Slow down, Atmos." And in response, we get Mr. DeSantis saying, "Yeah, well, they were meddling, and Mr. Moody's going to downgrade them." That's ridiculous. That's big corporations stepping on you and threatening you. It's what it is. Now, let's look at admissions by Atmos. Atmos admits it cannot eliminate all non-hazardous leaks or replace all old pipe immediately. Mr. Knight's conceded on the stand, this case is about pace. Atmos' position to this commission is we set the pace, we provide no metrics, and you must accept it. The staff concerns, we insist that there be financial discipline, and that's needed in setting capital levels for safety. Again, you have to have limits. Customer affordability is a real issue. I mean, no one wants to get blown up in their house, but then, we're for them to do everything possible to divert another serious incident. But you have to balance all of this stuff with the rates that your ratepayer can afford. I mean, I guess Atmos, if you let them keep going, they'll suck as much money out of them as they can until nobody will say, hey, it's cheaper just to go get all electric. We don't even need natural gas. It's too expensive. But they're going to keep going until they get just that point, because that's the way businesses work. Now, Atmos has been making March filings for years. They're generic narratives, unchanged. They have Excel spreadsheets showing budget buckets filled with candidate projects, but no explanations on how the dollar amounts are set so that you can review, the staff can review. I remember one of the attorneys for Atmos up here asking one of our witnesses, well, this is, we'll provide this information. We can just sit down and do, look, we were trying to get all that done. That's the reason why we're here. So that shows that they weren't providing it. They didn't. Otherwise, if we had something to look at the prioritization of some of these projects, we'd be able to share that with you. But they didn't even bring it here today. So what is this spirit of cooperation they're all of a sudden talking about? It's been our way or the highway. And that's the truth of the matter. The growth over time since 2016, 40 million supported by 50 specific projects. So in 2015, there's a $40 million and they gave 50 specific projects, okay? That was good. Today, $166 million, with 147 million of that described in just those 8 generic buckets that we saw on the screen that Mr. Berg went through, and I think Mr. Sissing may have went through some of them. So that shows you right there, they go from specific at a budget in 2015, and now in 2025, they come to you all and say, look, 166 million here and 147 million in things we want to do, but they don't give you a description. It's just very generic. That Mr. Berg couldn't tell exactly what they were going to do. And these aren't, 22 million for one of them. There's got to be more specificity to that to make a reasoned judgment, to even do your job. For us to review it and to make a recommendation to you based on the evidence. Atmos used to provide the 5-year forecast each March. In 2024, that data came in late in July and showed a drastic confidential increase, but it's well above the 147. Impact on customers. Mr. Sissing's projections based on these numbers that they gave us for this case right here, that they're asking, bills could rise by an average of $700 per year within 5 years. So Ms. Smith's bill on her, or just whatever she does for a living, she can expect over 5 years that bill to increase $700. That's a big jump. That's practical numbers. Not $700 a month, but over the course of the year. $700 bump. The staff has asked Atmos how they measure this effectiveness of this DEMP program we're talking about. We have asked that. And Atmos's responses is too intricate for metrics or charts. Hey, our DEMP's just too difficult for y'all to understand. Put it in metrics and charts. Just trust us. But they said in here, they make reference to their dashboards with these detailed data that they have on them so they can make real-time in the field decisions. Well, they didn't produce any of it when they were asked for it. Another reason why we're here. The staff's proposal is to impose discipline by using a historic test year. You've heard a lot about forward-looking elements. Well, one of the things, just like other companies have, is a historical test year and capping their system integrity plan recovery at the inflation-adjusted level of Atmos's first 2015 SIP budgets. That's what the staff proposes. And pair this with flexibility. Look, Atmos, Ms. Bass made light of the staff's proposal. Look, if you've got a project, system integrity, safety projects, that's outside the budget y'all set, just come to us. Not to us, to y'all. That's what we propose. Just go to the commission. Petition them and say, look, we got our budget. We thank you for approving our budget. And we're going to use that budget wisely. But we're going to exceed it this year because this project has come up, whatever it may be. And they just simply come before y'all by petition that you see those, every docket petitions, right? This is what we want to do, commissioners. And this is why we want to do it. And get your approval for it. Is that unreasonable? Again, the staff does not deny Atmos recovery of, and we're not asking y'all to either, deny Atmos recovery of the prudent capital spent for safety. We simply try to structure when and how the recovery is approved with accounting attached. And you have to control it. They're going to recover what they prudently spend, right? And if they have to go beyond it, they ask you permission. And they may not get it before they spend it. It may be after they spend it, what they call a lag. Hey, but I got to work 30 days a month before I get paid. I don't get paid on, early. Your first paycheck, they don't pay you the first day of the job, do they? You got a lag. a 30-day lag until you get your paycheck. How are they any different? Are they something different? No, they're not. They're just big. And we're small. So we got to do, and they don't. Atmos's threat. In their rebuttal, you know, Ms. Bass comes up here. Well, and go back and if you look at the transcript that the court reporter is going to prepare for you. And she sat here and actually said, and I was like, what? Am I hearing this right? That if you side with the staff and you put caps on our recovery, we will file annual rate cases each year. And we'll file it on a forward test year. Now, I don't know how y'all perceive that, but again, going back to specifics, that's strong arming. You know, these rate case costs $1 million a year. You don't do what we're asking, we're going to file one each and every year. It costs you, we're going to make you pay for it. Go back and look at that. But that pales in comparison to the $64 million at issue in this very case. The staff witnesses agree with Atmos's counsel that utilities rarely receive everything they ask for. I mean, no one receives everything they're asked for. Atmos essentially argues that the commissioners, again, should surrender your oversight of $64 million in savings to avoid a potential $1 million process cost. So we're going to cost you, you know, if you get involved in this, if you meddle in our $64 million, we're going to keep filing them and cost you $1 million a year. The way I heard it. Go back and look at it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just on the end of the capital question, this case is about safety, pace, and accountability. Atmos is asking you all to green light any capital it labels for safety with no accountability. We're just asking, discipline, slow down the pace, discipline the pace of this spending, require accountability for results, and still allow Atmos to seek recovery for any prudent safety measure investments it can justify. Okay, 2 minutes. Reliance on Pittman, went through that, how this case differs from Pittman. Here, Atmos proposes an actual equity ratio of over 60%. The evidence shows it's outside the peer range. Remember Mr. Christian's list, and I'll look at that again. You'll see every question I ask. Who's the highest? Who's the highest? Who's the highest? Atmos, 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 Atmos. Since those several years in that. Mr. Mayu, he testified just recently, and his proposal for a 50-50 cap structure is well supported, gentlemen, well supported, and is reasonable and consistent with other Mississippi gas utilities. We urge you to accept our proposals. The return on equity we propose, and with that, I'll sit down. I've heard a lot. But I think the staff has made reasonable and prudent suggestion to put some guardrails and some guide rails on this train to get safety done, get Atmos what they need to recover, prudently spend the dollars, but not put the ratepayers in the poorhouse over time. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Minutes, and I have 4 sentences to clarify the record.
Is not going to agree to that. We have gone by the letter of this as in the order of this commission filed on September 10th or 11th that allowed for a closing statement timed by each side. That was Ms. Bass's decision to finish when she did. We were both allowed a closing statement. We have both provided a closing statement. The staff will not agree.
At this time, we're going to go into executive session, and we'll be back for our closing statements. And so we'll talk about a lot of that then. So closed session, excuse me.
Can I respond, Ms. Kruger's statement?
In what kind of response? Yes.
We did agree to 20-minute close, and I actually tacked Ms. Bass. She spoke for 16 minutes and said, I'm going to reserve my 4 for rebuttal. This commission has always allowed the petitioner to have an opportunity to rebut closing arguments if you do it within the time limit.
Thank you.
Mr.
Well,
Chair-
we're going to we'll go into closed session. Yes, that's right. Right. So just need, do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into closed session to discuss going into executive session.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion's approved. We'll leave the You may be seated. Commissioner Stamps, have a motion?
Oh, we're back from executive session.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we need,
We're back from executive session. No action was taken.
we're out of executive session. No action was taken. To address Ms. Bass's request, in the interest of full and clear record, Ms. Bass will be allowed to read the 4 lines into the record that you referenced. Ms. Bass, you're recognized.
Thank you, Commissioners. I just wanted to clarify that the Kentucky Commission, in the most recent order, that they did not ask us to slow down. They raised the limitations on capital investment to be recovered each year. Also, the meddling comment, Mr. Diascendis actually said that the Kentucky PSC was.
This is simply turning to rebuttal of the staff's right to close. It's not in the interest of the record. It is abuse of the record. That is not reserved questions. That was a tactical, strategic thing to do, to wait to see what the staff has to say on closing and then get an opportunity to rebut that they're not entitled to, Mr. Chairman. I strenuously object to going any further. It's an unfair play.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Your objection is noted. Again, the statement was, we have 4 lines to add to the
Yes.
record. So
And then the one about the meddling, he said that the Kentucky PSC was meddling in approved in joint settlement agreements, unanimous settlement agreements that they would undo and order different terms. And then I just wanted to make clear that 80% of our service territory has the equivalent rate recovery that we do in Mississippi with actual capital structure and similar rate mechanisms. And then that the audience with the staff to show them the details of our DIM plan. We have requested that multiple times, and like Mr. Borg said, because we didn't show a willingness to reduce the budget, they didn't think such a meeting would be helpful. So that's it.
2 minutes up. Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Stamps, you're recognized.
I'd like to move that any and all requests to have things added to the post-hearing briefs that we have made be withdrawn from being requested.
Commission.
From all
Yes,
of us,
from
correct.
either side. And anything that we've requested to clarify.
Correct.
We're moved to strike that.
I'm now clear on everything.
So we have a motion. Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Any opposed? Motion carries. At this point, we'll go into the closing statements. Commissioner Stamps, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, thank you for the hard work and dedication. I have been for those folks who love the process and love government, this has been a wonderful display of both sides of hard work and dedication. I appreciate the hard work on both sides, and I look forward to deliberating on all these matters and having a swift and timely ruling.
Thank you, Commissioner Stamps. Commissioner Carr?
Again, thank everyone for what they've done, the hard work. I know there's been some intense fellowship at times, and I can tell you this, Commissioner's lost a lot of sleep over this. I take this very seriously because our citizens deserves our best, even from Atmos and from this commission and from the staff. And that's what we're here for, to represent them. Again, thank y'all for y'all's input, and again, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Carr, Commissioner Stamps. I'll echo that. It's been an amazing experience. You know, this is our first full-fledged rate case, and we've learned a lot. It's been beneficial for us to see how the staff and the utilities negotiate, and to be part of it. And again, Commissioner Stamps and I being former legislators, to literally see how the sausage is made. I'm glad that we live stream so our constituents at home can see it, to see testimony and to hear the things that we hear, to see the things that we see. And again, it was a very, like Commissioner Carr said, a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of paperwork. So Jake and Connor loaded us up with a lot of paperwork. So kudos to Jake and Connor both. But thank you all for exercising restraint and decorum, and for, again, as Commissioner Carr said, it had some intense fellowship at times, but that's part of the process. We're passionate about what we're doing, and we want to get it right. And so our commitment as a commission is to do what is right every time with the facts that we have. And so that's our commitment to the people of the state, to the staff, and to Atmos, that we're going to try to review the case, all the facts that you presented, and make the best ruling that we can in the interest of all parties involved. So thank you for all the witnesses. Thank you for everybody and the hard work that they've put in to make this happen. Thank you for our PSC staff, the PUS staff, Atmos' staff. It's been a heavy lift for a lot of people, and we appreciate it. Oh yeah, thanks our IT staff. We've done a great job. So no hiccups and everything's great. Did I forget anybody? Thank you. Thank y'all. So with that, again, thank y'all very much. And at this time, the commission will take this matter into advisement. Or dismissed.